Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on my channel. In this video, we will be looking at how do you use Sub-Skill within Claude skills for your ROS MCP server. In the previous video, we already looked at what are skills, how are they different from MCPs, and how do you use the ROS MCP server along with Claude skills. The main benefit of using Claude skills along with the ROS MCP server was that you could define your own custom workflows and it made the model more predictive and definitive versus in case of MCPs where the model has to become an orchestrator, load all the tools and start doing it from scratch. Versus in a workflow, it already has everything laid out. So we're going to step it up a notch where we're going to introduce sub-skill to the Claude skills to define further workflows working on the ROS MCP server. For this example video, I have built a Gazebo Sub-Skill which controls the simulation environment and loads of simulation environments along with loading up the ROS MCP server and the required bridges for it to operate perfectly. And the further we'll see one such example, which is a warehouse tugboat robot running as a skill on top of the sub-skill of Gazebo. So let's get started. So as you can see that this is coming from the previous video where we already looked at the skills reside within the .clot folder inside your root directory. Now I'm inside the .clot folder of the skills folder and I'm already inside the ROS MCP skill. Now you can have multiple skills, but with this context we'll have just ROS MCP skill. Now within this ROS MCP skill there are a few sub-skills that you can define. So let's go inside sub-skill and see that we have one Gazebo sub-skill that's available. Now essentially the idea is that the Gazebo sub-skill is inheriting from the skill itself, and the primary skill.md file will refer to these subskills so that in case if the prompt that the user gave requires it to run a Gazebo simulation, it can refer to this Gazebo subskill and then load up the different arguments and workflows that are defined within this. Now inside even one subskill we can define different subskills, right? So even if I go to Gazebo, as you can see that I have different subskills even in Gazebo. So these includes the simulation environments that I have. Now for example, if you have a unitary go-to simulation running that you would like to automate using a subskill, you can just simply ask Claude to be able to make a subskill inside the Gazebo subskill for the unitary go-to or any specific simulation of your choice. So I've already defined one subskill for the purpose of this demonstration, which is a tugboat. This is a warehouse robot. So this is basically referring to the one simulation that will be running, and I already have the SDF files for it. So it's referring to that SDF file for it to start operating. Okay, so now let's try to take a look at the skill.md file of Gazebo. So for this, I will go back to the Gazebo subskill and I will do code dot for me to see open VS Code from here. All right, so I am inside the Gazebo skill and let's take a look at skill.md file for this. All right, as you can see that in the beginning contains mainly the name and the description of the skill. Now this is what the LLM will look at before it loads up the entire skill section for this. Give a brief illustration of what this skill is supposed to do and work with, right? So this is the basic simulation, and even then inside the skill.md for the Gazebo we can define the subskills that are available. Then we can use something as a default simulation. That's what I've defined, and then the references that needs to be done, the prerequisites that needs to be in. So these includes all the bridges that you need to install. So for example, the bridge between Gazebo and ROS needs to be started, as well as the bridge between the ROS MCP server, which runs on a WebSocket, and the ROS bridge server has to be started. So these are the two bridges that require to be started, and then how do you install them? The instructions of that are provided here. These are all the steps that the LLM reads, and then it starts it automatically in a background running terminal. And overall, it's just about the different things publishing and subscribing that it can start doing. All right, so this is for the main Gazebo skill. Now let's take a look at the sub-skill, which is a tugboat robot, and this is essentially a skill, essentially the simulation that's running already that I already have within my. So basically these are the two launch files that are available for this that needs to be loaded from a file path that I've given it, and I think it can just load up. It doesn't have to have a lot of things, but like essentially the key things that are available from the previous ones can be loaded up here as well. So that's simply about it. Now let's try to test this Gazebo simulation and see it in action on how it performs. So I'm back on my terminal, so I need to start Claude code. So I will simply type Claude, and this should start Claude code for me. All right, now I have Claude code running on my computer. Now please note that you do need a paid subscription, a max plan or a pro plan of Claude for you to use Claude code. However, you can also use it within the Claude desktop as well, but make sure that there would be some limited access in terms of the terminal use and different operations that can be done. So Claude code just allows you to do it and have everything. So one thing to note is that if your skill has been successfully installed and recognized, if you do a / command, you should see the skill name here as well. So the ROS MCP server skill, which is sort of the main skill that's inside the skill folder, should have the name here. So because I'll be using the skill, so I'll just mention the name ROS MCP server skill, and then I will ask it to start Gazebo simulation and move the robot forward and backward to inspect the plane for the time. Alright, so I've given it a command where it's supposed to start everything for me. As you can see that I do not have any other terminals open, so everything including the parallel commands or starting the bridges has to be done by it. So now let's wait for it to do. So and then I would not like it to ask permission, so I'll just allow a star here so that all the permissions are given to it. You can obviously check it on what it's trying to do, and then it should be able to do it from there. Okay, so the Gazebo window has appeared. Might take a second for it to load up because the Gazebo simulation sometimes takes time, and I'm working inside a virtual machine, so it's actually for it to wake. And Let's wait for it to start. Okay, so there were a few issues, so I'm starting it again. Hopefully better this time. Alright, so as you can see that it is reading the subskills of Gazebo duckbot and the skill.md file. So it's reading all of those things and it's asking me for some permission and I'm gonna allow it. Okay, so our Gazebo window has appeared. So that's okay, right? So this is the space around the simulation and this is the robot. And Claude should give instructions for it to start moving and inspect the place. So let's allow it. Okay, let's give it come on. Okay, so as you can see the robot has started to move. I've asked it to move forward and backward 2 times. So let's see. Okay, great. So it has completed the task. Now let's ask it for some more fun things that it can do. Okay, so I've asked it to move it in a circular trajectory. Let's see how it performs. All right, perfect. So as you can see that it has completed one complete circle of the same. So this is a tutorial on using sub-skills from Claude to build your own custom skills. Now, you can use sub-skills for a variety of use cases. For example, you can use it for Isaac Sim and everything including handling of bridges and other operations can be handled and automated by just mentioning it in the commands. It's very easy to make a skill. You can just ask Claude again to build a skill for you and it will be able to, because it has a skill to build a skill, so it will be able to generate a skill based on the instructions that you give it. And once you have that, you can put it in .claude folder and then from there you will be able to easily work it off. Thank you so much for watching. Have a nice day.